G'day, g'day, you beautiful humans. Bar weep grana weep mini bong. It's wonderful to see you again on this Monday afternoon, evening, Tuesday afternoon, depending on wherever you are. Where we're just going to have a quick chat, you and me as viewers, to have a little talk, because usually what happens here at this point is the internet needs to catch up with itself. So obviously we need to give that a little bit of a chance to be chatting with us. Now, it's got a fair bit to talk about today. So we're going to be having a bit of a look at the West Coast GT, which is obviously coming up, and that's super exciting. We've also got a whole lot to look at in regards to the stats for that too. And then we're actually going to have a bit of a look at a few of the lists as well. Now, I have two fancy and fantastic human beings who are joining me today, because obviously I'm not to be trusted by myself, Dan unsupervised. Obviously I can't do this all on my lonesome, because I will fuck it up. So we've got two wonderful people joining me today. Now I'm just checking that we're actually able to chat to everyone, that we're all getting along. Now, how's their frame rate for everyone? Because I know we had a little bit of an issue with the show earlier today with Rob and Nathan, so I just want to check that you can all see me, hear me, and that I'm not jumping around. Oh god, there's a drinking game. Every time Dan gets annoyed at Chris, will go take a drink. You might need to drink a little bit today. So joining me today, we have the stats man himself, LLV. Has come on, because he's obviously put together the stats for this again, and that's pretty fucking rad. It's also really interesting to see. There's some cool stuff. Interesting to see what's left out as well. And also we have Andy from Mr. Andy Selwood, who is the TO of the West Coast GT, is also going to be chatting to us. Now, apparently it's a little bit choppy, but we're just going to see, because hopefully it's going to smooth itself out and get its shit together. Gentlemen, say a great big hello.
Dan, how you doing?
Oh, look, I'm about a 9 out of 10. LLV, how you doing there, man?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I get around, it would seem.
Yeah, so. You do. You're like you just love to go to all of the different shows, right, and talk to everyone. People, what's everyone drinking? So this is obviously the alcohol show. I'm still working my way through a bottle of whiskey. It seems like there's, okay, so there's some Four Roses going on. I hope when this is done, I'll probably jump on the wines. So gentlemen, are you drinking at the moment? Andy, are you drinking anything? Or, oh no, you're trying to clean your body, right?
I'm trying to cleanse again. I go through these cycles of kind of like, I hate myself, and then, like cleansing and repeat, really. So,
binge and purge. I'm about it.
Works.
LLV, are you drinking right now, or are you being a good boy?
I'm drinking a wonderful ginger tea. I'm in the same boat as Andy. I'm just coming off a bit of a cleanse for some health reasons, but a nice warm ginger tea. Nice. It would usually be a Scotch. I like a bit of Scotch now and again, but the body can't handle it right.
Fair enough. So you're giving it a chance. Well, we may as well get right on into it and start having a sweet look at these stats. So if you are following along at home, they will have just appeared on your screen, or they will be about to. And this is actually really fucking cool. Or at least I'm really excited by it. Mostly because of the last faction on the screen down there. Now, LLV, what faction is that last one down the bottom?
It's the faction that's always at the bottom. It's the Dispossessed.
Yeah. Yep. It's oh, sorry, a couple of blokes just dropping in just to say goodnight and drop off. Slenice just checking in with you, LLV, making sure you're okay. Turn King Tristan dropping out. He's got to go and have a little bit. He's all tuckered out. It's time for a bit of a sleep. So thank you for saying hello, gentlemen. But go get yourselves a nice little sleep there. So the Dispossessed, as you said, regularly end up being at the bottom, and yes, they are at the bottom here. That is true. That is rough. But upshot is that, like, looking at that, damn, that's a much bigger representation than 0. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And what's going to be interesting is all those zeros under 2.2 meta and current match win percentage, they will not be zeros after this week.
They're going to disappear. And Andy, like, what are your thoughts when you saw the lists coming in? Because obviously they came to you like 2 nights ago. I got these to LLV, I think, yesterday. So this has all happened in a really fast little spot here. So credit, like kudos to both of you. But Andy, what are your thoughts on kind of the spread that we've got here?
Yeah, I'm really happy with the spread of the lists. I'm happy to see the amount of destruction there, and all the chaos factions are represented, which is cool.
Yeah,
we've got one Sylvaneth, which is I've got a soft spot for Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with it. It's a great bunch of lists, and
it is.
I feel like apologizing to my.
So go on.
Apologizing to my work colleagues for like just how distracted I've been like for the last week.
If they played War Dollies, they'd understand. Look, it is, to be fair, it's a little top heavy with Skaven and Maggotkin, and that always just makes me a little bit tight in the bum hole because first of all, Skaven, I will say, to their credit, I think only 2 of the Skaven armies are taking that fucking rat trap vortex shit piece of crap. Which is I mean, I'm a big fan of not seeing that, because that thing can just eat a sack of dicks. Makes you go 0-5. So basically I'm digging that there's not the rat trap. The Maggotkin, the reason I worry when I see them is usually it's Nurgle plays a very like negative game, like it's a very debuff heavy game, which can slow it down to a grind. I know for a fact that at least one of those Nurgle lists is like a Beasts of Chaos list that's using the Nurgle Allegiance in the formation. And it's like Bestigor, and it's choppy, and it's awesome. So that's kind of cool. Dadhammer, lovely to see you. Toon King Tristan, make these a podcast. Yes, they are. Rob and I have got it together with Scrivo. So these are going to be going out as podcasts once I... pull my fucking finger out, basically. So LLV, like, you're obviously the stats man. You live, breathe, eat, and consume data and information. So looking at this spread, how does it compare to the other events that you've been seeing over the last little while?
Yeah, it's quite different. We're usually seeing Legions of Nagash and Stormcast Eternals leading the field. And if people are looking at the table along with us at home, you can see a column there which says meta difference. So that's a real good indicator of what is currently happening in Age of Sigmar 2.2 to what is actually happening at the Wet Coast this weekend. So you can see some Skaven have a massive increase, but outside of Skaven, your other big ones, Iron Jaws, great to see them in numbers. Order, oddly enough, up 3%. So So the big one for me as well is not many Flesh Eater courts. They haven't had a huge representation yet, but every event I see more and more Flesh Eater courts, and I see more and more 5-0 wins from them. So let's see if that single Flesh Eater court player can keep the dream alive by going 5-0.
And let's be honest, for those who have just joined us, my other guest, Andy, the TO of the Wet Coast, is with me as well. And after we've had a look at the stats with LLV, we're going to be going through those lists. Not all of them, but we have picked out a few. The Flesh Eater Courts list is one of them. We will be having a look at that. But yeah, it's interesting. There's also a huge drop-off in the number of Legions of Nagash and Stormcast than we usually see, which is that's saying something, because those two usually dominate the meta. Like Andy, just like from where you're sitting, I guess, which is in your home, I hope warm and not as liver damaging as what I'm doing just now. But with the Flesh Eater Court stuff, were they big here? Have they like petered out? Has no one really jumped on them yet? Like, what's the go?
As far as I can tell, a few people have shown interest in them, but still so new that I don't think a lot of people have really played up against them in this area very much. So yeah, that's pretty new.
yeah. LLV piping up with the unsaid there that given that they're new and people don't really know it, they're probably a very good chance of them doing quite well in this if they take a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, I saw there was a funny clip that somebody put on Twitter. It's like to play against Flesh Eater Courts, and it was this girl. It was a girl in like a little those little cars that you can buy, drive.
Yeah.
And she's like driving across the grass, and she sees her little brother him over.
Oh my gosh, yes, I saw that. And then like hits him and he falls down. And the disturbing thing is that then it's the slow grind over him. Like it's not immediate. It's like she grinds her way over and then down the other side.
So that was very accurate. I laughed at that.
Yeah, that's pretty much been my experience of them as well. I also wonder if we're starting to see a little pushback from players too. Because like if you knew that your army was quite top tier and was kept smashing people no matter what the fuck you tried to do, no matter what they did, it kind of would then lead me to not want to play them as much, because I'd be like, well, if I win or if I do well, I want people to know that it was because I was fucking good at this game, not because I had the new hotness. However, I am a very, very people tease me, and they are right, about being a hobby hipster. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. One that jumped out a little bit to me, LLV, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. Like Disciples of Tzeentch, they were the hotness a little while back, and now they see them a little bit, but not a whole lot, and yet they've got a big upswing in this event. Anything, you got any thoughts on that? Maybe stuff drawing them back out?
Yeah, they still show to events. I mean, we can see a world map percentage of it's only 2.8, so it's not massive, but they do show up. They don't tend to do well unless they're actually the Beast of Chaos heavy lists. So I haven't seen the lists myself, but if either one of those two, or maybe both, is like the Tzeentch version of the Beast of Chaos list with all of Enlightened, it's Enlightened. Let's not.
Yeah, I feel like
let's not even say Beast of Chaos.
I feel like Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a list that's like 20 Zangor and 9 Enlightened?
I think there might be.
So it's not as bad as like the 80 Zangor, 18 Enlightened fucking hotness that's disgusting. It's minorly disgusting. It's enough to make you go like, but it's not enough to make you vomit completely.
Yeah. You trade your Ungor flexibility and your Beast of Chaos Herdstone for better magic.
Look, there's a bit in the chat. There's someone saying that people should just trade him in and play Scourge Privateers, and I gotta say that I'd be with you if they weren't elves, Dad Hammer. You're a beautiful man. I love you. You're gorgeous, and I just want to cuddle you and feel you beside me, which we did do at CanCon a couple of times in a totally platonic way. But come on, man, Scourge Privateers. If you don't got a beard, I'm not interested in your army, basically. But they're also saying that they're very difficult to paint. Tzeentch, that is, compared to, like, say, Nurgle of Khorne. Which is probably fair enough as well. But I have seen... I guess the thing is Tzeentch lends itself to much more, like, beautiful painting as well, where people can do really crazy things. You can do them with the other armies, but that magical aspect of Tzeentch leans to it. Seen a little drop-off in Deepkin and Flesh Eater Courts, which is, like... Deepkin surprises me a little bit. I would have thought, like, they're not huge in Australia, but we've seen them a bit around. But look, that's just the armies.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised.
You thought you'd see more, Andy?
Yeah, I did. I mean, last fall I played against the tough Deepkin list with I can't remember how many eels there were, but there were a lot of eels.
Too many eels. More than 3.
And so I know that they can really put out the hurt. Yeah, only seeing one list was kind of surprising.
Yeah, I definitely was expecting more. And hey, I'm pleasantly surprised to know that I don't need to go up against as many of them. Because I'm obviously taking Dispossessed, the most superior faction in all of Age of Sigmar. Much better than Legion and significantly better than Fireslayers. Not by the stats though. We don't talk about the stats when it comes to Dispossessed because they make their own stats. In fact, LLV, you're going to be playing Dispossessed at Bobo, correct?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Twitter. Thanks for that.
My favorite thing is that the stats man is going to be making the stats for Dispossessed, which means you can't fuck it up or I will hunt you down.
Yeah, it might not be a good showing. I've never played with Dispossessed. I've played dwarfs in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. That's as close to a Dispossessed army I've got.
As somebody who played dwarves in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I can tell you that they are absolutely no help when it comes to then learning how to play them in Age of Sigmar. So you almost backward steps. You'll be used to how slow you move, though. I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this and I'm going, it's movement 4. Like that's a whole extra inch from what I used to get. So that's the only encouraging part of this whole situation.
Living the dream. Living the dream. So Andy, just like kind of looking at it, right? Skaven sitting with a chunky amount of the meta at the event, right? Like they are a big percentage, and just looking at it, like. You'd be, I guess, Andy, as the local here first, if you're looking at the stats right now, what are your predictions for your podium finishes? What are your top 3 finishes first? I'll ask you first.
Okay. Yeah, I would say like we're gonna see a Skaven list. That's my prediction.
I think you're 100% right. And looking at the fact that there's 4 of them, and they are like, I actually think that they got the skinny on Flesh Eater Courts. I reckon they're better than them. The only thing is they're harder to put together. They're harder to play, and so that's kind of my call on them. Is that I think Skaven have more tools. They've got more flexibility. They're just harder to work. So it's much easier to put together a Gristlegore list and know what you're doing than it is to put together a Skaven list. So yeah, I'd agree with you there. What are your other picks?
I would say second, I'm expecting maybe like a Nighthaunt. I think, as I mentioned when I was on your show before, I think a lot of potential.
Yeah, and LLV, they took out the Anzac Cup last week, I believe, with Ash McEwen and his Nighthaunt, took out the Anzac Cup. So that's fucking awesome. Which does go to show that they do have the potential there. They just, I think at the moment, they keep getting overshadowed because people keep taking Chain Rasps and Blade Geists in Legions of Nagash because it's the easy way to run them, right?
And then I think finally would be the Iron. I think one of the Iron Jaws lists will get...
Yeah? Fuck, man, I'm all about it. I would love... that's my favorite thing about Iron Jaws players is they're always having the best time. So if whenever, like, I think they've I'll ask you in just a sec, LLV, but I think they've podiumed once, and that tickles me in a very special way. So I'd love to see them podium again here. LLV, did they take a second at some point?
Yeah, it was an event called the Painting Masters vote. So I'll let you figure out what the biggest criteria of that podium was.
Look, I'm gonna say that maybe painting had something to do with it.
It might have.
Okay, fair enough. So painting might have been weighted a little bit heavily there, but still, hey man, I'm about it. I'm digging it. Okay, well then in this case, I'd love to see him get up in a very straightforward competitive event. That would be fucking awesome. So your top 3 there were Skaven, Nighthaunt, and Iron Jaws. LLV, you're the stats man. You're the wizard with the numbers. Give me your top 3. Give me your podium finish.
Okay, I have a quick question of Andy first.
Okay, yep, shoot, go on.
So, seeing as you're the, this is your local meta, I guess first, is what we're seeing indicative of the Vancouver, like if you go down to the game store and you're playing week in, week out, is this kind of what you expected as far as spread of factions are concerned, or have some players thrown a curveball and gone with a different faction than you would have expected?
It's mostly what I was expecting. I mean, I think the coming out recently and being kind of the new hotness, that local scene really kind of had a chance to kind of absorb that change. So, but I think other tournaments I've been to in this area and what I'm seeing at game stores, it is pretty indicative of what I would expect.
And what, as far as what you would consider or what the scene would consider the better players, what factions of, if you had to choose your top 3 players, what factions of those people urge towards?
It's kind of similar to what I've already said, actually, really. I mean, I think, like the hunt, and I mean, some of the people that are coming, I don't know.
I guess that's the thing as
well.
well.
I was looking at Daughters of Cain.
There are people.
I was looking at Daughters of Cain as well. Like, are the Daughters of Cain players and the Skaven players good players, or are they just people using those armies for the first time? Was my main where the question was.
I mean, they're definitely good players. Like, they definitely know their armies and have been playing the game for a while now. So
yeah.
So they're not just people who've
do well.
So they're not just people who've jumped on the train and picked up an army in a heartbeat and don't know what they're doing with them. Correct.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So LLV with that information.
So based on that,
okay. Wait. Okay. Here's what I want. Okay. You can either do. There's two. I'm going to give you 2 options, LLV, because you're the stats man.
Yeah.
You got 2 options, right? You can either give me like you're betting on the horses. You can give me your boxed idea. Like I think these will be the armies that are going to be up there. Or you can give me your 1, 2, and 3 picks. Now remember, if you get the boxed ones right, people are going to be impressed. But if you get your 1, 2, 3, or even your a couple of those in order, we're going to lose our fucking minds. So I'm going to leave it to you with how good you want to put your calls to being able to pick it.
Oh, geez. Okay. I'll go 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And
all right.
I'm gonna go solely by not knowing the people play. I'm going purely from the stats these last 5 weeks.
Let's do it. Okay, so, and this is the thing, right? It's Moneyball. You're just putting your money on the stats, which tells us that should be right. Okay, so let's do it. All right, hit us. What's your 3? What's coming in third?
Third place, I think, the Honest Wargamer Darling faction, the hosts of Slanesh.
I thought you were going to say Dispossessed, because I was like, that's a war game. That's an Honest Wargamer Darling faction. Okay, so Slanesh in third. Great. Okay, who's coming second?
Second, you see, this is a toss-up. I'm going to go with Daughters of...
Okay, Doc. Okay, so we got second, Daughters of Cain. Third, Hosts of Slanesh. Who's your number 1?
Flesh Eater Calls.
Yeah, who else could it be, right? That's it's a safe bet, it's like all of the other horses in the race have 3 legs and you're betting on the one with 4, which is fair. That's entirely exactly the right way to do it. Andy, I'm going to offer you the same option. What do you like? But I mean, you are the TO, so I understand if you don't want to do it, but I mean, like, you guessing, that's not really going to fuck anything up.
Guessing my 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you're gonna do it? Yes. Okay. Sweet. Sorry. Just give me 2 seconds. I just want to write these down so that I remember. So LLV gave us.
I have a disclaimer as well. Like, if I was actually playing the odds, Skaven having 4 players, actually, I should have probably put them into second or third.
It's not written down yet. I'm gonna give you the option. Do you want to change it?
I have one last question question of Andy. Is the host of Slaanesh player, has he been playing them for a long time?
Oh, I love how intense we're getting on this.
I believe he has been playing them for a while. Nice guy, actually.
Oh, super nice guy. That's not good.
Okay, so
I need someone cut.
LLV at the moment.
Okay.
At the moment,
I'll stay with my original decision.
Flesh.
Hosts of Slaanesh, number 3.
Daughters of Cain, number 2.
Daughters of Cain, and again, Flesh Eater Courts is only one player, and I haven't seen his list, so I don't know if it's Gristlegore or Blisterkin or something off the wall.
Gristlegore. So I'll tell you that much.
Okay, definitely 5-0. He's taking it down. GG. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Andy, the book's out. Give me your number 3.
Just before I answer, I just want to mention that chat right now is Rob Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Rob was last night. He came over and we were going through the list together. Mm-hmm. So I sort of my right-hand man in kind of going over and prepping for the event.
Oh, okay. So sorry, Rob. Which one's Rob? Rob, who are you in the chat? Because no one ever has their names in the chat, so I don't know who anyone is. I don't know. Rob, wherever you are in the chat, I love you. It's wonderful. We've digitally met a couple of times. Lovely to meet you in the chat. Yes. Okay. So Andy, and now officially, now that you've said that, you are also betting in for Rob as well. Oh, nice grab. Nice to meet you, bro. I think it's your 2-month anniversary. Lovely to have you with us. So Andy, top 3, go for it.
Okay, so in third place, I'm going to say Iron Jaws.
Iron Jaws. Okay, yep. We're picking any Are you saying any of the Iron Jaws player, or are you picking one specific player, or just saying you reckon they'll get there?
I think it'll be one of the Iron Jaws players. That's
okay. Yep, groovy. One of the Iron Jaws players. Excellent. What's your second?
I'm gonna say Nighthaunt.
Nighthaunt. Okay. Yep.
And then my number 1 is going to be Skaven.
Skaven. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay. Yep. Sweet. So that's this. This is good. We're gonna put the local versus the stats man and see who wins. Obviously next week. So that's fucking awesome. I hope you both live to.
We gotta get yours down as well.
No, because mine is just fucking easy. It's dispossessed in 1, dispossessed in 2, dispossessed in 3. I'm going to.
You're just podium. You're taking the podium.
I will be the podium, and that's why I'm excited for next week, because neither of you said me. And I'm obviously playing at this event, so I just can't wait to rub both of your fucking faces in it. So yeah.
I didn't want host favoritism.
No, we are all about bias and favoritism at the Honest Wargamer, because it's what? Honest. Gnome's Bane just subscribed up with Twitch Prime. Fucking lovely to have you with us. So you're obviously picking up on the Aussie day. That's because that my accent is from Australia. I am in Vancouver currently, so that's why we are the Wandering Aussie Addiction. But it's lovely to have you there. Yes, people in the chat saying that it is going to be their personal challenges to fuck up those predictions, which I am very excited to see happen. So look, we might get into the lists in just a minute, but LLV, before we wrap up with looking at the stats and stuff, chat to me, talk to me. What else? Is there anything else in these stats that us laymen like myself who struggle with mathematics in high school and I know the stats because I know how to bet on a horse or a greyhound, or occasionally a couple of raindrops cruising down the window. Credit to anyone who knows where that reference is from. But being the man behind the numbers, what is it? Talk to me. What are the things I've missed looking at these stats?
Yeah. So our favourite faction that keeps getting talked about, Flesh Eater Courts.
I thought you were about to say dispossessed. I was about to dispossessed. No, fuck you. All right. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I just keep leading you.
Every time I get excited. Yeah, Flesh Eater Courts, go for it.
Only a 58% win percentage here posted. Something people are not seeing is that does include everything from AOS 2.2, which was a couple of months before they got their book.
So they were running with their old General's Handbook stuff. They didn't do too poorly, but they have basically swung from being the easy beats to fucking dominating, which is skewing kind of the percentages there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they had I think a 40-ish% win rate pre-Battle Tome. Post-Battle Tome, it's closer to 73%.
Jesus Christ.
So the other interest not on here is every single event, and I think there's about 8 or 9 of them. You can see all this on the honestwargamer.com there. Flesh Eater Courts, since their Battle Tome, have gone at least 1-5-0 every single since their Battle Tome has come out, which is an unprecedented number.
Yeah, so for those of you playing at home, that just to really straighten that out, just in case you don't know what was just said, since their new Battle Tome, Flesh Eater Courts, at every tournament that they've been taken to, have had at least one player who has won all 5 of their games. Every single event.
And they haven't always came first because there are other scores in events. It's not always just about wins. But as far as going 5-0, if that's your key measure of how well a faction is doing, which is a very good one in my opinion, if they can 5-0 a tournament, because sometimes podiums are a little bit misleading, right? But if they've gone 5-0 at a tournament, they've not dropped a single game, and that's what Flesh Eater Courts have done.
Which tells us something. It tells us that Flesh Eater Courts are the team to beat if you can beat them. And I actually, having a look at it, we're going to have a look at some of the lists just now, and I reckon some of them have got it. But is there anything you'd like to leave us with, LLV, before you dash off? Thank you so much. I know it's later where you are in the country as well, so thank you. Bless you, Cotton Socks, for coming on and talking all of this stuff. That's fucking legendary. Someone's asking if the Cadron Overlords would like to grudge the Flesh Eater Courts in the first round. Now, that would be a very fucking interesting game to watch. I would love to watch that game.
Actually, I kind of had a question for you because I play Khorne as well, and I was kind of wondering if we were going to see like a Tyrants of Blood, Vengeance, which we haven't seen. Just kind of the contrast between, when the Khorne book dropped versus when the FEC book. Any sort of insights into what your thoughts are on sort of the Khorne release versus the FEC release?
Actually, that's a really good one.
Yeah. So Khorne haven't since their new book, they've stayed about on par with where they were before their new book. So they've not seen a massive spike or a drop off. But they're always around that kind of 3 to 4 wins. And then now and again, you get some genius spike and event, the biggest event in the world.
The biggest event in the world. 220 players taken out by Khorne, baby. They got to be doing something right. Yeah. Woo! Hello. Sorry, I got very excited there. So
in answer to your question, they haven't as yet had as big of impact as the Flesh Eater Courts have done. And I think, although they do have some similar tools with striking first and such, I just don't think it's as it's not as aggressive. It's not as aggressively pointed as the Flesh Eater Court stuff, and it's probably a little more harder to build and to use on the table, in my opinion.
I think, look, if we were to look at it, right, the honest truth is that Flesh Eater Courts went through the Disney montage of the film Hercules, where they went from like a no-name kid who wearing fucking a sack with a weird haircut and no skills. They got trained by Danny DeVito with goat legs, and then they came out the other side just absolutely fucking shit mixing anyone that got next to them because they were Hercules. And I don't think that we have seen a battle tome come out for anyone that was to that extent. I think we've had ones that have come out that were really strong, but not to that level. What would you guys say? LV, I'll go to you first. What would you say to that?
That's correct. It's just not happened. And there's always a production cycle and people catching up. So what you'd usually see is something come out, and then a couple of months, that's when it will start posting results as people optimize the army. This thing was optimized day one and ready to go, and it's just been mincing people ever since.
Yeah, 0 to hero, Sleepy D, you're 100% on the money. Andy, I guess over to you. Being a Khorne player, having just had a book come out, when you saw it, I imagine when Flesh Eater Courts people saw their books, they were immediately turned on and didn't know why. What was your experience of seeing the new Khorne book, knowing that you play Khorne?
You know, at first I didn't. I was like very unsure, but then I started to just try out some different lists and play a few games, and I was really trying not to sort of see if any net lists were coming up. I just wanted to
do your own thing
for the army. And did my own thing, and I'm actually really happy with it now. Like it's such a fun army to play because of the summoning in, and you just have it's a bit like Iron Jaws. You can have a lot of fun with it, right? You can really mix up your opponent, and also you can sort of make lists that are a bit more kind of sturdy and going to take a lot to take down. So I'm actually the book, and I wish I had more time to play it.
Dad Hammer saying in the chat was that probably the big issue is that everyone already had the list, and I'm assuming you're talking about the Flesh Eater Courts, which would, if you think about it, the list is pretty much just like 2 dudes on zombie dragons, which were already pretty good, a handful of ghouls in Ghoul Patrol, which people had because that was already good. Realistically, you are 100% right. People had it. They didn't have to go out of their way to possess this broken stuff. But yeah, LLV, I know it's super late for you. Thank you so much for chilling out with us. You're a fucking legend. I hope that Ginger Tea is taking care of you and bringing you back into the whole hearty, healthy stat machine plugged into a robot body that we know and love. Any last words, anything you want to leave us with before we move on from these stats?
Dispossessed are really hard to build as far as lists are concerned. It seems to me that trying to go through this exercise, I can build what I think would be a very good dispossessed list if we were allowed 2,060 points.
Right. So you keep finding yourself in that little 60 point gap, some might say.
40 to 60 points. Every list I put down, it's like, oh, excellent. Okay, this is looking okay now. Scroll to the bottom, 2040. Scroll to the bottom, 2060. It's like I don't even have, and all it's like appointed at like intervals of 80 points. So it's
I will agree. As a dispossessed player, it's so weird that almost all of our units, you're 100% right, are pointed at like 80, 100, 20, 60. But then there's a formation and its point is 170. So if you want to take that formation, there's no way you're not going to be in a weird point sit. But then again, that can be good for getting a triumph sometimes. But yeah, I do feel your pain. In fact, everybody in the Dwarden Facebook group and WhatsApp chats feels your pain, because it is literally the hardest thing about list building with Dispossessed, is that you are forever either like 20, 40 or 60 points over, just eternally.
Yeah. So now I see why there has been no Dispossessed players at tournaments, because they're at home still trying to calculate that 2,000 point list is my assertion.
That's it. We've got the models. We've got everything. The only thing we can't do is build a fucking list because the points are ridiculous. Yes, you're 100% right. Thank you so much, LLV, for being on the show. I won't clap because that might fuck up the microphone, but we'll give you some snaps just like we're in a sweet little jazz club. And thank you so much for putting together all of the fucking stats and stuff for this event, and for all of the Honest Wargamers coverage as well. You're a fucking legend, and you just do amazing things.
Thank you. So good luck to everybody, and with that, I will say good night.
Good night, LLV. Have an excellent evening.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Good night, man.
So for those of you who joined us a little bit late, just stepping off then was LLV, the brain in a jar that does all of the stats for the Honest Wargamer, and just an absolute dead set bloody legend. Just in all ways, shapes and forms. And if you look down the bottom, it's going to scroll through, show you his Twitter handle. You should 100% give him a follow because he is the man with the data on competitive Age of Sigmar at this point in time. Now with me still is Mr. Andy Selwood. He is the TO with the mostest. I was going to say like the hostess with the mostest, but that doesn't really fit. Running the Wet Coast GT. And what we're actually going to have a look at now is we're going to have a bit of a peek at some of the lists. Now, just for those who are with us at home, I am trying a fuck ton of transitions with today's show because I wanted to try and bring the lists in a slightly easier way than we've done previously on the Honest Wargamer, but it does mean I might have done fucked something up. So if at any point you're in the chat and you see me having humped something or a list that we're talking about not in the thing, please yell at me directly in the chat to my front face so that I can fix it up. But without further ado, we will switch over to the fancy, handy-dandy, high-tech screen that I've prepared. And this is going to be our list screen. Now, right now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Dan, the lists are blank. There's nothing here. It's blackness. And that's okay, because the first list will appear very shortly. Now, we're going to talk about the death lists first. Now, as I said at the very top of the show, we're not going to go through all the lists. I find that's a little bit silly. It takes forever, and we've all got better things to do with our time. So Andy and myself have each chosen 4 lists, one from each Grand Alliance, that we kind of like to have a talk about, or like to talk or throw out there or think will be competitive for whatever reason it jumped out to us. That's not to say if your list isn't here that it's not great or we're not excited by it, but it may have come down to something that we've experienced before or have talked about before, or just didn't tickle our plums for whatever reason. And the fact that it tickles your plums is great. But our plums are tickled by what our plums want to be tickled by, and you can't tell us what tickles them. Is that fair to say, Andy?
Yeah, my plums are tickled by a variety of things, and it's hard to say what tickle my plums.
Oh yeah, but from one day to the next, the thing that tickles your plums could be vastly different. But the thing that was tickling your plums first and foremost is this death list. Now, I'm so sorry if I get names wrong or if I fucked stuff up, because let's be honest, I'm not great at this. We got the Knight of the Roses host, played by Colin, and it's a Night Haunt list. Now, Andy, what jumped out about this list that you wanted to have a bit of a chat about it?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Bladegeist Revenants. I've played around with Night Haunt a bit, and I haven't really tried out the Bladegeist Revenants and look into them because they're actually really good and jumped out at me as being cool. And the Black Coach as well is a model, and it's got some really cool features. And I just see this list as being something that's like got a lot of really good synergy, you know, like it was just really cool. And it looks a very balanced but probably very effective list, and some good fighting, not much shooting obviously in a Night Haunt list. But yeah, just like I mean, it's obviously going to rely on its for the troops, but overall it's just I just like the look of it. It's something that I would probably try and run myself, actually.
Look, I think a lot of people sounding off saying it actually looks quite like similar in the same vein as the list that took out the Anzac Cup, where that Ash McEwen's Night Haunt list there, which is fair. I know he ran, I think, 2 5s of Bladegeists, and he actually said that the thing that he found is that they regularly caught people out, because people know what to expect about Grimghast Reapers, right? Like, we know what they do because they were the bad guys for so long. So Bladegeist come along and trick you up. Sleepy D saying the Black Coach is a colossal pain in the dick. Are you talking in terms of like play, or are you talking in terms of assembly? Because I imagine it would probably be both. I'm just like you. I'm super excited to see Bladegeists in there. I love their models. I also like that we've got there's 40 Chain Rasp, that's fucked. That's real hard for anyone to get through. But they're in 220s. That for me, that makes them like play-wise, that probably it feels a little bit more versatile. Like you would be able to do more with it, but also as far as like game-wise, I would hate playing that list less because of that.
Yeah, and I think chain rasp are paper, they look pretty normal, but I think once you buff them in a Nighthaunt army, they can become really good.
And that's the thing that I guess where we see a lot of Nighthaunt units in Legions of Nagash compared to Nighthaunt. Legions of Nagash, they are a bit more durable and they come back a lot more often. Whereas where you see them in Nighthaunt, they are infinitely more buffable. There's a lot more buff spells, abilities, wholly within stuff, aura abilities that make them heaps better. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm digging on it. They're fucking scary. And if you roll those big charges, they're attacking you twice. Interestingly, there's 230 points spent on battalions. I'm assuming that was to get it down. I think that probably makes this list around a 4-drop, maybe a 5-drop, which is probably pretty good. A lot of points in battalions, though. What do you reckon about that?
I think that's actually good. I mean, battalions are in the book for sure, and they both bring some very useful mechanics to the army. So and obviously you're getting X, which is good, and command points. So I was taking 2 battalions.
Yeah, a couple of people sounding off in the comments saying that the one thing that they feel like the list is missing is Reichnor the Grimhaler for that +3 to cast, which I guess I kind of agree with if there was a bigger, meatier, endless spell in it. But Prismatic Palisade, it's actually wonderful. Like, it either draws out a Dispel in your opponent's turn because they have to get fucking rid of it, or it's a real pain in the ass for your opponent when it get it up. I love it. I think it's awesome there. And also for particularly when you've really only got a couple of units, your 2 units of Chain Rasp that you wouldn't mind getting flanked or whatnot, or like something big going into them. So having a Palisade that you can just put up to guard an area and stop someone getting in behind or putting pressure and bullying your objective, I really like it. What do you reckon though? Like looking at that, how do you feel about its like magic output? Because it doesn't look to be massive.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, the Guardian of Souls can cast 2 spells.
Oh, okay, right. It's a 2. Sorry, I thought the Guardian was only 1. All right, yes. No, that's fucked. That's straight up scary as fuck.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty effective, and I think the 2 Spirit Torments is good because you're going to be bringing back guys. Because things are going to die. So let's face it.
And you're not Legions of Nagash, so you can't just have them next to a piece of spot on the fucking ground to get models back, or then return the whole unit for a single command point. So bit of healing's quite useful. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I'd say I think the reason why I like Nighthaunt is again I just been explored fully for a long time. I think I think with somebody who knows the army well and has that sort of finesse, I think it can really people.
Yeah, I reckon it's probably pretty decent. People giving a bit of love for the Palisade in the chat. Nightscribe 20 saying, and rightly so, 20 Chain Rasp can die to a strong fart. So 40 being obviously pretty decent for keeping them around. But and of course, saying the Midnight Tome with the artifact on the Guardian of Souls means 1 more. So that's D3 plus 1, I think, coming back. So yeah, and not bad. I dig the Spirit Torment in there 100%. I like the Chain Ghasts. Black Coach. Yeah, I'm interested to see how it'll do. I reckon it might take people by surprise because there's no Lady Oleana, Lady Linda, as she's commonly called in Australia. It might do people by surprise because it's not leaning on the things I would usually expect a Nighthaunt army to lean on. The only thing that I see as potentially being a bit of a weakness for it is the fact that it's not packing a whole lot of like super quick other side of the board danger, where, you know, like one moment they can be there and then run move on top of something they're 20 inches on the other side of the board picking up an objective. I guess you can put stuff in the underworld though and summon them on. So that kind of counters that out a little bit. Any last thoughts from you on this one?
No, I mean, I just want to say, like, the spirit hosts are, I think they're underrated as well. Like they, you know, they have 4-up unrendable save and you know, 6 dice to attack, you know, and mortals on 6s is really good.
Yeah, they're always a threat, even if it's just a little hero that goes in, because someone can be like, you could roll 3 to 5 6s, you could just get that one lucky roll that takes me off the board. So yeah, fair. All right, so we're gonna swing on from that one. So this next one was my pick for the death lists, and we did talk about. I did say that we would have a look at it because I think it'd be silly not to, just for all the reasons that this army is currently dominating just almost every aspect of Age of Sigmar. And that is the Flesh Eater Courts list being played by Rich. Now, this will come as no great surprise to anyone, as he's from the realm of fire, from a squishy, Akrashy, and is playing Gristlegore. Now, for those who haven't had the distinct pleasure of playing Flesh Eater Courts, Andy, if you were to sum it up in 3 words, how would you sum up playing against a Flesh Eater Courts list?
It's terrifying. You put your army down, then you start taking your models off the table because they're dying.
And you're taking your models off the table before you've had a chance to do anything as well. It feels much like the old Goutfire Scorch stuff. So terrifying is one word. What would another word be to describe Flesh Eater Courts?
Yeah, I don't. You charge them and you still die as well. So you know, there's
so basically combat's bad. In short.
Yeah. So it's I friend has, you know, crypt flayers, and they're really tough with spells and everything. They just
will not go down.
Yeah, they attack. Yeah, that's right. They you know, Flesh Eater Courts, it seems to me that they have mechanics. They have the movement, bringing guys back, combat. They have the summoning. So they've got like 4 really strong.
And that's another thing.
And they
to look at this list for those who are playing along at home and don't understand. So their summoning costs a command point, but if you put them next to terrain, the terrain piece that they get for free. So if you put them next to the free terrain piece that they get, it doesn't cost it. And then their summoning is arranged. So in this list, I think when I was looking at it, if you summoned all Crypt Flayers, you get, like, turn 1, you summon 680 points to the board. So by the end of the first turn of the game, before anything's been done, you have 2,680 points on the board and your opponent has 2,000, even if nothing else happens. That is just fucking insane. Personally, I'm looking at this list and I'm reckoning that I'd summon 3 units of Flayers and a Courtier to bring them back when they died. What about you, Andy? How do you feel about Gristlegore summoning? And sorry, wait, before you start, I know I haven't checked the chat in a minute. I know what a bunch of you people are going to start talking about, and that's the fact that whoever it was at the start suggested a drinking game that you drink whenever I get salty about Gristlegore. Fuck you. You're going to get real drunk in the next few minutes. But Andy, what are your feelings on that summoning side?
Yeah, it's I think what I've seen from the games I played is that, you know, you look at your opponent's arm and you think, oh, you know, I think I can take this on. Come in and you're like, oh shit, like I'm surrounded, and you know, because then also it affects maybe your positioning as well, because you know this stuff is going to come in. So you know, maybe you would like to kind of push out more, but you're kind of worried about, you know, and if you get double turned, then they might be able to, like, you know, touch your stuff that you don't want anything touching, right? So it's
with a couple of 9-inch charges, and let's remember, like look at this list. There's 3 extra command points. Now turn 1, unless you deploy funny, you're not going to need any of those command points for summoning. which means that turn 1 you've got 4 command points. Now I would hazard a guess that turn 1 Rich has 4 command points because he can summon 4 units that will be 9 inches away, so he's going to re-roll 4 charges if he doesn't get in. That'll be my move, and it means turn 1 you just basically shitmix your opponent with probably 2 of those units or more, which would just, be pretty heavy before your opponent's had a chance to get out the gate. And sorry, in the chat, Gammy, the most attractive and gorgeous man in War Dollies, lovely to have you with us. I miss you, bro. It's been so cold without any cuddles over here. But I know that you got shit to do and you just can't lift up your life and move over to Canada with me. But I'd love it if you'd come play War Dollies here again, because I miss getting killed by wanderers and fucking naked orcs. So yeah, other things in this list. Annie, what else are you seeing about this list outside of the insane amount of summoning? What's the first couple of big fucking things that jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, just really those guys. I mean, they're just gonna so much damage and spells. I think I wouldn't know what to really. I think that would be the hardest thing.
Yeah, if
against this,
if there's an army out there, and I think there is one. I think there's probably one army coming in the entire event, which is the KO army that could potentially take both of those Terrorgeists off turn 1. That is about the only army I see that's shutting down the summoning, because otherwise you need to kill hero models a turn to stop the summoning happening, and that's just not going to happen. So there's that. I've been looking at it. Ghoul Kings on Royal Terrorgeists are quite literally the most underpointed unit in the game, because you think about it, they come with around 160 points of summoning, 170 points of summoning. So technically, you're paying 230 points for that model because it gets to bring some friends with it. And that, I mean, like, Ignax's scales on 1, just making it absolutely impossible to kill with either wounds or mortal wounds. I'm not sure what the Gurish Morshard does, but I assume it just fucking sucks. It's a tough, the 2, 1 is tough, 2 is really hard. So yeah, I pity anyone that has to come up against it. If I come up against it, I pity myself. I pity myself all the way to the bar. Ghoul Patrol is also kind of cool. I guess the one worry that I would have is that it could be really easy for this list to be left out in the open by not having a whole lot on the line, because you kind of need to deploy stuff off to get the effect of it. But yeah, any last thoughts on this one? This is the list, by the way, that LLV, our stats man, has picked to take out the event, and this list didn't even make your top 3. So what are your last things on this one? Because this is a list I'm pretty scared of.
I think that you're still playing the objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, think about some of the other armies and what they can do. Unless this guy kind of kills in a couple of turns, you still have to take the objectives.
Yeah, that's true. It's still playing for the objectives, and if you've brought on all your stuff turn 1, you and somebody like shuts that down, they could still potentially go up and just choke you out through to the end of the game.
I've seen games where I've seen games where people have the whole army has died, but they still won on.
And look, even just looking at it, there's a couple of endless spells in there. I'm not a huge. The Chalice isn't bad. It's okay. It's not fantastic. But it's pretty good for 40 points. But the Cadaverous Barricade is just fucking insane. It's great. So that's very clever having in there. But yeah, looking at it, I think it's a tough list. I think it's the list to beat. I think the challenge would be, like, for my money, would be seeing this list go up against the Caradron Overlords player. Because I think it's for those we actually that list. I can't remember if that's one of the ones we're going to be looking at, but I don't think so. But it's a very infantry and shooting heavy list, and I actually reckon that if it would be a real shame for either of those two to get through to the finals, like play all their games without playing off against each other, because I think for Flesh Eater Courts that's the ultimate challenge. And for KO, that's their game to lose, which isn't often something you say about Kahadran Overlords. So I think that'd be an awesome matchup to see. So I hope that those two end up playing off against each other just to make them work for it, which would be really cool. But yeah, all right, so we're going to roll on. So those were our two picks as far as the death lists go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the chaos lists. Now we've picked two of the chaos lists, and so this is Andy's pick. First up, this is Andy. Just for those of you who are joining us late, Mr. Andy Selwood is on the line with me. We're having a bit of a gas bag about some of the lists that are coming. We've picked two from each of the Mortal Realms, and then two special favourites that we wanted to throw a shout out to at the very end for the lists that are coming. So we're going to drop in now into our second list. Our second round of lists, and these are the chaos lists. Now, this one we're looking at is the Skaven Tide, being brought in by Chris. And Andy, this was your pick, so talk me through why did you love it?
Yeah, so I think, well, I was talking to Rob last night, and what sort of surprised me was the 40 Storm Vermin.
Yeah, me too. I saw that. I was like, wait, 20? No, it's 40. Fuck.
So I'm like, wow, that cool. And also, you know, obviously there's monks, and it's when I was like, oh, look at all these like plague monks, and the kids said, did you say plague monkeys? I said, no, plague monks. So, but now I call plague monks plague monkeys.
Equally terrifying. Like whether they're coming at me to religiously berate me about plague, or whether they're coming at me because they like are screaming and just like throwing their feces at me. Both ways, I don't want to be a part of that experience. So yeah, equally scary. I agree, man. I looked at this list and I fucking love it because there's three things that jump out. The holy three. The first is that I dig that it feels like a warlord clan, like the old school Skaven, like because they were like the warriors, you know, the clan against the Storm Vermin. That was warlord clan kind of style thing. I dig that it feels like a warlord clan that's hired help. Like they've bought a couple of scryer engineers to come and put together these cannons. They had a few crazy dudes lobbing poo at everyone. They've got a vermin lord that popped up to. I really dig it. It feels very Skaven, and I loved that this list is not rocking the Warp Lightning Vortex because I think it is for Skaven in particular. It's a really easy crutch to lean on because it is so good. And you can naturally get +2 to cast without any help with between your gnaw holes and your Old Mate Special Pants, taking the Master of Magic as the command trait. You can get straight up a +2 to cast. The hard thing about the Warp Vortex is it needs an 8, so you can cast it on a 6. But I feel like it becomes a crutch. So that excited me. What else? What else like competitively from the games that we're playing made this list jump out at you?
Well, I mean, I like, you know, I mean, we're going to see Warp Lightning cannons on most Skaven lists, but I cool, and I think there's like one Warlock Bombardier as well. So I just love this idea of Skaven stuff, you know, either kills a unit or it kills itself or both or something. And I just think that's so fun, you know, so I just love the whole randomness of like what could possibly happen here. So that I think Storm Vermin made me.
I mean, look, when I look at it, it's kind of the same thing, and it's the reason I love playing Skaven, because if they fuck you up, they usually mess themselves up the same amount. I can remember one of the blokes back home in Australia before I left had just gotten the Bombardier rules had just been released, so we were mucking around, having a bit of a play around with seeing how he went. And I think in one turn, in the hero phase, he killed a unit of evocators, but then in the following shooting phase, he blew himself up and killed himself with the rocket. And everyone fucking loved it. No one was salty. And it was exactly that experience of, yep, this is how Skaven should play. This is what it should feel like to play against them and to be played by them. And yeah, I think it's great. So yeah, Sleepy D, no Warp Lightning Vortex. It's a very, very interesting list. So yeah, LOV, no Vortex seems like playing with a handicap, which is probably true. But I guess the other thing is that to remember is most of the time, if you're playing with the Warp Vortex, you're gearing your army around getting it off and casting it. and I like that this doesn't rely on the vortex. Warp lightning cannons also just fucking fun because, you know, maybe they push your poo in, maybe they blow yourself up. They're always, you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, 40 storm vermin, 500 points in one unit. Andy, would that scare you? If you had 500 points in a big block of 40, how would that make you feel?
It would. It would. So I'm just kind of curious. I haven't played up against storm vermin in a really long time. In fact, I think I've only ever played against them once and put out some serious damage. So I'm not sure if they've gotten better or what, but you know, they can definitely. I think they have a similar stat profile to like Grimghast Reapers, you know, and they have well. So you know, you could potentially get a lot of attacks in.
Yeah, and
that's kind of
cool. Is packing Skaven Brew as well, so that could bring a lot of hate. The downside though is that if someone gets a clever charge in, tags them off to the side, that could really shut that unit down. You know, and stop them. Although then again, they've got heaps of shit about retreat and charge, so it's not a problem. You know what? Fucking Skaven, go for your life. You're great. You've got nothing to worry about. Yeah, so every time I'm like, oh yeah, that would be a great strategy against Skaven, I'm like, nope, never mind. Nightscribe saying that Plague Monks are probably better, but they don't look anywhere near as cool. And that is, for me, that's 100%. I love the Storm Vermin. They're great models. They've got so much character. And I just love that their whole shtick is that they're bigger and tougher than regular Skaven, but they're not actually that much better. They just think they are and beat everyone else up. So it makes me happy in a very special place. And also, yeah, I'm digging that. I love that the Great Horned Rat kind of just made his way into the pantheon of Chaos Gods. Like, wasn't one, and then Slaanesh disappeared, and then I assume just at like a coffee date between Khorne, Tzeentch, and fucking Nurgle, the Great Horned Rat just like came up and sat down with his little like cappuccino, and they were just looking at him and like, hey man, what? That's our friend's seat. And he's like, oh well, I'll leave when your friend gets here. And they were like, this is actually just too awkward to address, so we're just gonna deal with it. Let's just go. No, just Bill, just shut up, man. He's here now. Let's just whatever. Maybe he's got some good ideas. So I love that the Great Horned Rat has just decided that he was one of the major gods of chaos. And made that his spot. So yeah, any last things you want to leave us with this list? Obviously, it was your pick. So what was it? Any last little words that you'd like to throw out its way?
No, I mean, I think it's I think it's going to be a kind of a fun list to play against, and against Skaven, I think you just have to face kind of, you know, and you know, go with the fun, you know.
Yeah, you just have to assume that the dice are going to either be with you or against you, and you just need to accept that that's where it's going to be, because otherwise you'll have a bad time, and everyone is just no one wants that. Okay, so we're going to jump across to the next list. Now, this was my pick of the Chaos lists. There are a few Nurgle ones I liked. I really dug like the Beastman Nurgle vibe that's coming. I think that's got, like, it's not just Nurgle, but it's also got, like, it's not a neg Nurgle, it's a really output heavy Nurgle. But this one tickled my fancy, only because Slaanesh has been doing really well, but this one had a few bits and pieces I don't expect to see, and a host that I would never lean towards. So the name of the list was called the Exalted Host. It's being brought by Carmen or Carmine. I am so sorry if I fuck up anyone's names. I'm bad at names. Just a bad person in general.
It's Carmen.
Carmen. Okay, Carmen. Groovy. So Herald of Slaanesh, pretty decent. Keeper of Secrets, good choices. The General, probably the most durable in the list. But here's the thing. Taking Pretenders as a host. Now, most of the time when I see this list run, I see people taking it as leaning as Seekers, just for that insane speed and that insane board pressure. So I haven't seen that many people run Pretenders, though I know that there is a lot of competitive players doing it, which means 2 command traits for the General. So that's why you can see they're rocking Lord of Excess and Allure of Slaanesh, and then the Breathtaker as well, which we'll have a chat about that combo in a second. I'll take you through it in just a sec. But also Lord of Slaanesh on Demonic Mount, which is, I'm assuming there for the command ability, which lets you pick, for a command point, pick a Slaves to Darkness unit, make a pile in an attack twice in the combat phase, which is fucking awesome. So combine that with the Keeper of Secrets, which is letting a unit of demons pile in an attack twice, you very, very quickly have like just fucking daughter demon nets and shit going off all over the shop. So they're pretty tough. I dig the War Shrine in the list. I think it's good. I love the Fiend models, both the old and the new. The one thing that did jump out at me though is that this list is packing 2 Hellflayers. Now that they've never really jumped. Usually you would see a Herald of Slanesh on Exalted Seeker Chariot, because that's the one that just minces through any Horde units with mortal wounds like that. So yeah, interesting to see a couple of Hellflayers instead of Exalteds. Andy, did you happen to have a look at this list? What were your thoughts?
I mean, I Slanesh a lot too, and it's funny. I used to play against a guy who had a beautiful Slanesh army in Warhammer 8th edition, and hey, you should get into AOS now because Slanesh are getting a new book, and but you know, hopefully he'll make the jump. But yeah, I mean, I like the I love the 2 units of 30 Demonettes. They're going to look really cool, and I'm just wondering about the 20 Chaos Warriors. I mean, I love Chaos Warriors. I guess they function as an anvil of some kind. Do you think?
Yeah, I'd guess that the idea is, maybe given that they're halberd and shield, the idea is to use them as the anvil, and then put like potentially like they're the most obvious unit for giving them pile in an attack twice. Put that on them. Suddenly you've got an anvil that your opponent doesn't want to go in against. And yeah, I think it's awesome. It's a really tight list. I like the balance of demons, because demons potentially usually are the damage output in this kind of a list. You've got the balance of that with the mortals as your durability. I really like it. I also, looking at it, I think it's a toolbox list, which that's the kind of list I love. It doesn't lean on one thing. It has lots of different answers for lots of different questions. And so I think it might do quite well, just because of all of those little bits and pieces coming together. In the chat, a few people having asking just some questions about like artifacts and stuff. The Sword of Judgment with the Verminlord Corruptor. So I believe that the call on that one would be that when it's your turn, you get to decide the order that things happen. So potentially, I guess that you could choose where it works. LLV saying that potentially we might see Dispossessed do well because no one's ever seen how they work. Feel like that's a backhanded compliment, but I guess I'll accept it because it's probably fair enough. We're an inscrutable and secretive bunch. Yeah, no, I really like it. I think it's a cool looking list, and so that's why it was my Chaos pick. Now we're gonna jump into our destruction lists. No, actually, you know what? Before we jump into the destruction lists, I would like to flag. We're gonna go with one of these are the special mentions. There are 2 special mentions / shout outs, because they're not necessarily lists that I think are gonna take the day, but they're fucking awesome lists, and I just wanted to give them credit where it's due. So the first one that we might have a cheeky little look at, the first one we might have a peek at is this one here. Wait, I'll just do all my buttons properly. And it's going to be apparently really obvious really quickly as to why this one made a special mention. Miguel is playing it. Now as we go down, it's Khorne, it's new hotness, got some new fight. Reapers of Vengeance, very nice. Bloodthirster to lead the pack, great, good start. General Mage Eater, so like shutting down a lot of magic either like in your opponent's hero phase or with the axe in their turn. Couple of Slaughter Priests, and then at the bottom there, this does offend me slightly that you put this one as the bottom instead of the first thing on your leaders bracket. But Vorgoroth the Scarred and Skarlock the Skullhost of Khorne, the 1200 point small child weighing Khorne dragon that came out of Forge World. Have you seen this model before, Andy? Have you seen how big it is?
I haven't actually seen it in person yet. I've seen it on shows. It's impressive, and I was tempted to take the plunge and pick it up.
Yeah,
but,
okay. I think the thing for me, is that it's like deciding this or a puppy, because I feel like it needs just as much care, love, and attention, but it's definitely worth it. When I first saw it at CanCon, Rob and I were commentating the first game of CanCon, and it was playing on a different table directly in front of the commentary station. And literally, there was a slight sag in the table whenever the Corn Dragon was towards the middle of the board. Just the sheer weight of resin was pulling it down. Yeah, I've heard a few people saying that his paint job on it is spectacular too. So I really want to see it. Hey, Mr. Mephisto, lovely to have you in the chat. Again, good to see you. Third favourite Aussie. I'll take third. There's a lot of Aussies. I'm happy with third. Yeah, so Miguel, yep. So a few people are excited about that we're giving him a bit of a shout out. And yeah, I'm just digging it. They're really good fun. Yeah, sorry. Nightscribe, Rob suggesting that potentially he put it at the bottom so that people wouldn't notice it. They'd just be like, man, he's really, really hoping, it's really hoping people won't notice that. And they're like, oh, but wait, sorry. So you're like, okay, so I feel like you're down like almost half of your army. And then you're like, yeah, no, but I'm fully deployed. And they're like, wait, is that gigantic fucking thing in the middle of the table? That's not a brick, that's a model. And then you're like, yeah, no, that's totally my Corn Dragon. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a fun one. I mean, both two of the endless spells, endless prayers in there, the Wrath Axe and the Hex Scorer Skulls, but the rest, I mean, when you take the big dude on the big dragon, you don't have many points left for other stuff, right?
I mean, I guess it's an intimidation factor as well. Like, that this giant thing gets put down.
Yeah.
And he has like 2 Slaughter Priests as well, and Slaughter Priests are amazing.
Yeah.
They can do so much for your army. Altar.
That altar. Oof. No,
you can. And
I was just saying that altar is fucking terrifying. As somebody who hates playing against Khorne, that altar scares me.
Yeah, and the Hex Scorer Skulls. I've used that in many games, and it's been fantastic. It shut down somebody's magic phase.
Definitely. You get a turn 1, you flick those across in range of the casters, you can fuck them up. But okay, that's the first of our shout outs. So very excited to see this list. Miguel, can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to fawn over your list. Now we are going to go on to the destruction lists. Now this was your pick for the destruction list, Sandy, and I can see why. It is a fun fucking list. And it is titled The Infinity War Shock and Bore. Is the full and proper title. Now I know for a fact that Alex, who is playing this army, loved he and I were actually talking about it, loved the tie-in between this army and the Avengers movie that I think comes out this Thursday, and then the event is this Saturday. So it's like you'll never have a better time for this pun. But also, I just love the look of the list. I think it looks great. What made you want to love it? What made you want to make everyone love this list?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's only 1,800 points, so we're starting off with 4 command points, and just like how many Gore Grunters do we have? We have like 15 Gore Grunters. So fun. I look at this list and it's just so fun.
Yeah.
You got the Maw Crusher. You got all these characters, but really I think the fun of this list is in those Gore Grunters.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, it's like March of the Pigs, just racing across the table. I myself, when I saw it, I dig that it's kind of like a cavalry list. Like I love that he with Ironjaws is doing what no other cavalry army can at the moment. Like fuck off your Stormcast, calling themselves paladins and knights. You're not riding shit. You're not shit. Gore Grunters are riding them. I like that it's pretty much an entire army based around just a ton of cheerleaders cheering on the Gore Grunters and the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher as well. It's savage, and you know what? It's Bretonia done green, and that's what I'd rate this list. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 for green Bretonia.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to just have a go at playing with this list myself. You know, I think it's so fun to have a fast-moving bunch of green guys just, you know, also, crashing into your opponent.
Also, I like that it's a list that probably doesn't worry too much about someone tagging it in combat, because you could take your, like, say a unit of 3 or even 6 Gore Grunters gets tagged in combat. You probably have the redundancy in your other units to retreat one unit out and put another one into the charge on that combat without worrying about losing too much attack potential. So I really like that. And yes, as the chat mentioned a whole lot, 200 points down on the drop. So 4 command points up the sleeve, and I'm assuming I don't think I've ever seen anyone that low on points at a tournament before. So almost always getting the Triumph, which is reroll hits, wounds, or saves one phase once per game. So yeah, I reckon it's interesting. I'm guessing it's for a whole lot of command point shenanigans, especially seeing that Aether Quartz brooch there as well. That would be my prediction. And yeah, I dig it. I love that it feels like the green skin boss on his mighty steed, surrounded by his loyal sycophants. He's kind of doing the Flesh Eater Quartz thing, right? Yeah. What's your vision of the army when you see it?
Yeah, I just imagine these orcs, you know, shouting with war chanters kind of like waving bones in the air, and, you know, their tongues are sticking out, and, you know, they've got these rotten teeth and glazed over, and then blood splashes everywhere as they smash into their opponents.
Oh yeah, and sorry, actually, to chat, the actual player of this list is in the chat right now, and appropriately points out that they're to reroll charges as well after failing 3, and I think that's kind of a big thing as well in a list like this. If you don't make your charges, you're standing out in the open with your poor piggy's balls hanging out for everyone to see. So yeah, I think it's a list that it's also a list where I think I want to, like, especially with that big unit of 6 or even with your 3s, I wouldn't want to risk failing. If I had spare command points, I'd be using them for my Inspiring Presence as well, because I wouldn't want to risk rolling a 5 or a 6 and losing potentially a whole lot. From a competitive point of view, I actually really like Gore Grunters, and this is something that I'm not going to take credit for myself, because Chris Welfare from the Mortally Wounded podcast, you should give him a follow if you don't, ladies and gentlemen at home, because he's a very fantastic War Dolly player. He made this point, and I really like it. Like, if you have, like, a lot of people lean towards brutes over Gore Grunters, and I get it. More, like, 5 models, more attacks, more for stuff. But if you take 9 wounds, you've lost 3 brutes. So you got 2 brutes left. You got 40% of your unit effectiveness left. Whereas if you take 9 wounds on a unit of Gore Grunters, you've lost 1, and you still have 66% effectiveness out of that unit. And it's a small thing, but from a competitive point of view, I think it's actually a really big thing, because it's how you keep your models doing their job. And Ironjaw's, your job is killing shit. So yeah. Sorry, I'm getting in trouble because I suggested that his orcs might retreat. Night Scribe, just more War. I also think that you'd be an idiot not to lead on tons and tons of War, which is a very orc thing to do, right? Just fucking praise the Lord, pass the ammunition, and go in balls deep without much thought to the situation. Any last ones on this one before we flick on to the next?
No, I just want to, I totally agree that Gore Grunters for 140 points, was it like 15 wounds? It's one of the best cavalry units in the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they're just fun too. That's the thing. So much character, such great models, And something I'm just digging to see the Green Knights, like the Riders of Ruin. They're the green skinned Riders of Rohan is what we're dealing with here, and very well timed with the movie release. So snaps, Alex. I love it. I love the theme. I love everything about this list. I really hope that this is potentially the Iron Jaws list that you pegged for third place that I can talk about podiuming this time next week. All right, next destruction list. We are looking at the Gloomspite Gits brought by Ricky, Mortal Realm Gur for that sweet Griff Feather Charm on a dank hold Trog boss. How do you sleep at night? Yeah. This was my pick for the destruction lists for a couple of reasons. The biggest is I reckon the dank holds are potentially slightly overpointed for what they're like. So I love when someone brings them because it means that they've built a lot of stuff. And I just love the mixture, the variety in this army. You've got your combat Trog, you've got your casters, you've got a combat Grot, then you've got just a ton of Grots, and then some Troggoths as like the dank holds kind of side, and then Fanatics, Loon Smasher Fanatics, which is cool. I really want to see Spore Splatter Fanatics at some point. And then a couple of endless spells. I look at this list and it looks like fun. It looks like someone who's taken a good swathe out of the new book rather than relying on any one thing. It makes me happy. And just earlier today, I got fucked up by a bunch of River Troggoths. So it's exciting to see some more Troggoths because I feel like they're just going to do more hurt. Have you had a look at this list, Andy? What did you think?
Yeah, no, I like this list. It kind of reminds me of the old Orc and Goblin armies that you used to see in Fantasy Battle, where, as you say, you had like a nice mixture of everything.
Yeah.
So there's no Loon King, which is interesting. The 2 units of 60 stabbers, that's just awesome to have those just big, like, saying, okay, what are you going to do about this?
And you can freely as well throw those 2 units forward, confident that even if they're killed, the odds are you're getting both of them back at some point as 30s, which still aren't badly sized units for Grots. I mean, they'd like to have more. They'd like to be 40, but starting at 60 minutes. So for those who don't know, the Loon Shrine lets you bring back units that are destroyed at half of their model count. So those 60s can be brought back on a 4+ roll for 30 models for free. It's great. It's an awesome aspect of theirs. I'm a really big fan of it. I think it's very Gretchen, very grotty. Just waves of tiny limbed green skin pointy teeth bastards. But yeah, I'm really excited to see it. And the Troggoths jumped out at me as well. Anything else in this list that tickled your plums, as we've been using the disturbing way to describe our excitement?
I haven't gone up against Fanatics yet. So I'm that curious about that, sort of what they bring to the army. See how the games go with this list.
Yeah, and I think if you are playing against this list, it's fun. It's an interesting list. It's definitely got a lot of those negs in there. With between the spells, the Griff Feather Charm, they'll 100%. I believe that there's maximum amount of allowable netters in those units of stabbers, which makes you -1 to hit in -1 to hit in combat. It's a list that stops. It plays the negative game without going to the... Oh, and of course the Geminids as well. Let's not forget the Geminids for -1 hit, -1 attack. It's a really interesting list. The one thing that does strike me a little bit about it is that there's not much that can get over the top, which is where I think for greenskin armies, usually squigs fill the gap because they've got like the ones that have fly or effectively can fly because they bounce so much so they can be wherever they need to be. It's interesting. This list doesn't have that. So I feel like that might potentially just be a problem with capturing objectives. But when you're doing what this list is doing, I think it should be all right. So yeah.
There is hand of Gork there, though.
Of course,
to
just pick up a unit and shot put it to the other side of the table and be like, that's where you are now. Good job. Andy, do we still have you, or have you exploded into a
Yeah, I'm still here.
green skip. Oh yeah, there we go. Good. Yeah, Hand of Gork. We were just talking about the fact that it's so good for flicking someone over to the other side of the table.
I've seen it in action, and it's kind of game changing if it happens, you know, because you can really pressure on an objective that your opponent maybe thought that they had kind of worry about holding, maybe, you know.
Yeah, and I also dig how much of the Greenskins lore is about them just believing shit as well. Like, I remember playing Mr. Gammy, who was in the chat just slightly earlier. Very fantastic, very fancy, very wonderful human being from back in Australia, playing his Bone Splitters. I think it was the first time I ever played against them. We'd played in a doubles tournament as allies, but never been against him. And he was moving his War Pigs, and he did some dance or spell or whatnot, and he rolled really well, but it meant that they like tripled their movement and had fly. And it wasn't so much that they had fly because they were physically flying. It's just that they were running so fast they could go like up the sides of mountains. They'd run across each other like World War Z style. Like they just were uncatchable. And like I love that that's not necessarily a magical effect. That's just they're so excited and enthusiastic that they make that happen. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I like the cut of their jib, to put it that way.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun list to play. Playing against it is going to be, you know, I think you're going to have to think about how to play this against this list. But
yeah, all right, let's have a chat about some of the order lists then. So we've got 2 order lists coming up. Now, this was your selection. I just want to make that very clear with the chat that this list was your selection because everybody knows that I am a big fan of a childish pun and a terrible joke. And I just love the name of this list. So I'm very happy that you chose it because otherwise I would have had to choose it just based out of its name alone. And the name of this list, it's a Sylvaneth army and it's called Morning Wood. And oh damn if that doesn't tickle me in a special place. Like that's my plums are thoroughly tickled. Excellent terrible pun. I love it. There's one thing that could have just tweaked it over, and that's if this list had Drycha in it as like the OG sad rage mourner. But other than that, it's just great. It makes me love it, and I also love that it's not just a Nullroot Wargrove. So Andy, what drew you to this list? What made you want to do it?
Well, I mean, I have a soft spot for Sylvaneth, or I guess I should say it's kind of a hard spot, really.
Yeah.
But you know, when I first looked at this, I was like, wow, you know, like battalion in here, but you know, packing in Ancient and the Spirit of Durthu, I think is and there's lots of movement shenanigans here that you can do with the Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
Also, the Kurnoth hunters with bows see very much anymore, and
no.
I used to take those to tournaments, and they maybe don't do the damage that you're hoping for them to do, but they are great for objective and holding it, and they are you know, still shooting and doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really the potential for moving around the board and just you know, the woods everywhere, and you know, obviously Ilario can summon stuff, you know, and often go-to is 20 more dryads, but you know, you could see or more Kurnoth hunters, so there's quite a bit of flexibility in terms of, you know, this list. So
it's got a lot of like usability. Just for the record, just so that you know as well, Andy, the chat's pretty pleased with your hard spot joke. That one tickled them. There was some plums tickled in the chat just now. But yeah, also a few people just really enjoying the name of this army list. I'm with you as well. I think See, I would give the example, right? Alarielle the Everqueen is a very well-pointed character that comes with a free random unit of summoning. I feel like she's very balanced between her survivability. I think they've hit the nail on the head with her. Now, you compare her to a vampire, an abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist or whatnot, a G-Quat, and that G-Quat for 400 points summons arguably roughly the same, maybe slightly less, but kills Alarielle round 1 of combat every game. So like if they end up into each other. So I think that while Alarielle's summoning is probably a bit more versatile, a bit stronger, being able to choose from like a big unit. Well, no, actually, I guess that's kind of the same. But like her summoning, I would say is on par, if not slightly better. But she's really well put together for her points for it. So yeah, I like seeing her there. I guess the problem and the thing that Natasha will have to keep an eye on is the choice of what to summon. Because if you look at the rest of the army, outside of the leader slot, it's pretty light in all those different areas. 3 Tens of Dryads and 3 Kurnoth Hunters. So the choice of what to summon with Alarielle is really tight. I actually am really interested because you see Alarielle with Durthu or Alarielle with a Tree Lord Ancient quite often. You very rarely see the 3. So there's like the holy trinity of the tree rocking out, which will be, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and, I've run Spirit of Durthu in a couple of tournaments, and, he has let me down. and putting the Gerst Strike on him, really smart move. And I remember several people telling me to do that, and I didn't listen to them, and I kind of wish I had now.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a single Sylvaneth army go to an event since the release of the Malign Sorcery expansion that didn't put a Gaia Strike. If they had a Spirit of Durthu, there was a Gaia Strike on it. Like, no one was taking a bare bones one because it's just too good. It's a busted artifact, I will say. I think very much that it's broken because if you look at any contemporary artifacts to it, they might give +1 to hit or +1 to wound. They won't give both. And if they do have a buff that's like +2 or more, it's like Battle Brew that then has a really heavy negative effect on the model that used it, and it's once per game. So I don't rate Gaia Strike competitively because I think it far outweighs a lot of other ones. And it's very, very good at what it does, especially on a model like Durthu where you really only have one lot of attacks that you want to make happen, and it makes them happen on 2s for both, which is just, it's just unhealthy. And a couple of people asking, Forest folks let you pop up and redeploy once per game. So a very universally useful skill, whether you use it turn 1, turn 2, wherever it happens. I mean, Tree Lord Ancients as well. I actually took a Tree Lord Ancient in a Dispossessed army. How does that make you feel, Andy, knowing that I took trees in a Dwarf army?
That I think I've thought about that too. I mean, I have Wanderers, and I've sometimes allied in, and it's a good mix. The other thing I'll say is that I've seen this army before, and it's just beautifully painted.
Okay, cool.
It'll be lovely to see. The other joke that occurred to me was that there's a color that it's not in the GW paints it obviously, but wood is the name of the color.
Oh, I really hope that that's been used to paint these models. Thank you for bringing this to the attention of everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are painting wood at home, please make sure you always use the most intense wood. Last thing that I'd want to point out in this list is the Tree Lord Ancient, because I ran one in a Dispossessed army. I have a bit of experience with him, and it's let me commiserate and commune with my Sylvaneth brothers and sisters a little bit more carefully about the fact that the Tree Lord Ancient only ever exists in one of 2 states, especially with Moonstone of the Hidden Ways for that little teleporty pop. Is the Tree Lord Ancient either absolutely fucks someone up, like the Tree Lord hits with everything, wounds with everything, kills everything in his way, and is just a horrifying Tree Lord to possess. Or he whiffs with all of his attacks, he doesn't hit once, and then he just stands around in a pool of his own incompetence, waiting for the chop that takes him down. So he's a bit of a big swing. Durthu's not so big of a worry once Gaia strikes on him, but definitely that thing. Though, as Dad Hammer, I believe, pointed out in the chat, it is 100% a Sylvaneth army taking Gaia Strike from Gairan. It is very, very fluffy. And I 100% bet you that every Sylvaneth player is lucky that it's fluffy, because otherwise you'd be finding a bullshit reason that every Sylvaneth army is from Shaman, the Realm of Metal or something. Being like, oh, it's Ironbark. Yay! And also, so LLV pointing out as well, and something that I've been really excited about here is that there's a very, Australia, the community is mostly guys. There's a few really rad girls rocking out there. I know there's actually a couple of like I got beat by a 9-year-old girl once. She crushed me with Legions in a Gash. That was heartbreaking. So there's a bunch of players of all ages, of all sexes, of all genders, of all everything in Australia. But since I've been here, I have noticed that Canada has a significantly stronger representation from women in the hobby. So that's just rad. Keep doing what you're doing. And they're all legends as well. In fact, a couple of them are responsible for how drunk I got a week ago. I think they were also a little bit responsible for how drunk you got as well, right, Andy?
I think when you can't remember what drink it is that you want to order, and you just kind of stare at the server with kind of a blank expression, I think it's probably time to go home and be cut off.
And so that's what was done to you, right?
Yeah. Although I think I had a dirty martini right there at the end.
I'm pretty sure there was a lot of olive in our immediate area, mostly from the cocktails. There's an amazing crew of every single kind of human being playing Age of Sigmar in Vancouver, and America as well. There are in Australia. I just think it's a much broader range of human being over here, and that's great. I think it's really good for the hobby. Means we get more ideas and thoughts, and also apparently more angry trees. So that's it. Any last comments on that one, Andy? Anything you want to leave us with apart from the hangover that the people have left you with in the past?
No, I agree with your comments about the ancient. Normally, years ago I would the item. I'm blanking here, but basically where he has a 1-up save, but then he can be like re-rolling ones, and so he was just really, unless it was like mortal wounds, and I really love that.
That's a pretty standard build, I think, like whatever it is, like Iron Bark or Iron whatever or something that makes it immune to Rend 1 and then re-rolling saves or pluses to saves or just all that shit. Yeah, it's a really common combo to see. So it's interesting seeing this one kind of spec'd very differently and away from that. So yeah, I like it.
Yep.
Groovy.
Cool.
Okay, the last of our order lists, the one that just for those who've joined us late, we're only going through 2 from each of the major factions, and then a shout out. We had 2 quick, one shout out earlier. We've got one more coming up, just for a couple of lists that we really liked. So we couldn't do everyone's because that would take forever, and then all that happens is people just cut to the point in theirs where they're listening to their list, and we don't really get to have a decent chat about anything. So I thought that we just pick some ones that kind of tickled our fancy, or as we discussed at the start, tickled our plums. And now that doesn't mean what tickles our plums doesn't change from day to day, but what we feel in the moment was tickling us is what we have here. So the last one that we're going to look at, and actually just like comes with a little bit of sadness from all the news today about a very famous, a very particular landmark that has been on fire. I really hope that Quasimodo got out okay. But much love to all of our brothers and sisters in France, because they obviously got some stuff going on that's a little bit rough over there. Just if you don't know, there's a fire that's burning some very, very important stuff. So we have Vive la France is the army, played by Louis Philippe. I'm so sorry if I don't get that right. I am bad at names, and I don't trust myself with any name. I barely even trust myself with my own. But it's a free guild army, and what better theme for free peoples than coming from France? And I really hope that we're going to be seeing like a kind of like Revolution style free guild army, because they just lend themselves to it with all of the banners and everything like that. Yeah, Andy, what did you think when you saw this list?
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of messaging Louis Philippe kind of back and forth. He did a practice game against me, and we sort of talked about different options, and I'm loaning him the battle mage, so I need to think about which one of my battle mages I'm gonna give him for this.
Yeah.
The main thing about free peoples that I like is obviously the mechanics around charge. You know, when you charge those units, you know, they can shoot, and when you're playing against it, it forces you to sort of think about, actually what do I want to engage, or you know, what do I want to do here, you know? So the idea of, you know, these little humans, it's all the kind of like monsters.
And look, I look at the list, I love it. There's a couple of really talented free guild players back in Australia. The AOS coach, who you can find on YouTube and Twitter and everywhere. He's a lovely human being, very talented at War Dollies, plays free guild and is a fantastic player with them. A couple of other blokes that I've come up against at tournaments who play them. There's, I would say, arguably two of the top army painters in Australia, are both free guild players. And at CanCon, I think so 220 players, right? The army best painted for the army awards, I think it was the 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 were both free guild armies. So they've got, I just think, and that's regardless of painting or how much or little you've painted, I just think that's a testament to the character in the army. And yeah, I dig it. I dig the 3 generals, 2 war banners, which gives you some redundancy if one gets killed. The general on Griffin, because, like, let's be honest, I mean, he's cool. He's got some groovy stuff. Phoenix Stone keeping him alive, and just in general. But it's your fucking general on a gigantic like bird lion, and who can go past that. An Amber Mage just trying to throw out a little bit of wild hatred there, and a Knight Incantor, which I'm guessing is there for that Dispel Scroll, just to shut down one thing and add another caster to the list. But the guts of the free guild is in that right-hand side. And just like you pointed out, Andy, it's all those overlapping abilities that the guard and the crossbowmen and the militia and all of that give each other. I really like it. I dig it as a list. It's got a couple of archers for running around and having shenanigans, and some 3 birds that I assume just float around and try to be annoying and go for objectives. Yeah, I like it. It's a scary list. It definitely makes you feel like you're walking into your own execution, though, with all of that ranged shit pointed at you. How would you feel going up against this list?
Yeah, exactly. I think I would think about it, and I guess the thing that captures my imagination with like free people's empire is, I'm not sure if you've ever seen or read the novels about Sharp, Richard Sharp. He's like this fantasy character.
Yeah, I've read him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was played by Sean Bean. And amazingly, he didn't die, actually. Bean. But you know, it's just that sort of, you know, eyes with crossbows and
a tenacious kind of, you know, will not to die.
Yeah, you know, just like, okay, hold the line, guys. We got to kill this thing, because if it hits us, we're gonna fucking die. You know, and so cool, you know.
Yeah, I love
they're just standing there.
Yeah, I love Free Guild. Actually really, after reading some of the fiction that got released over like the Christmas holidays, I'm really enjoying Free Guild because it's a very human aspect, and I think it's why books about the Imperial Guard are the most, I would argue, the most popular and the most common in the 40k universe of writing stuff. And that's because you can connect with them as another human. I find it very difficult as a weedy, middling height human being to compare to a Space Marine or a Stormcast Eternal, but damn, I can compare myself to like Johan running away from shit all the time. So yeah, I dig Free Guild for that. I feel like I can connect with them. So yeah, this list tickles me. It makes me excited. So those of you whose lists we didn't do, I am very sorry. Rerolling ones. I have seen your 9 crossbowmen list, and sweet fucking Jesus, that's terrifying. 9 Vanguard Raptors with longbows is it's just a turkey shoot, and yeah, and it's a lovely list. It is very nice. But these were the 2 lists that kind of for us each jumped out, and this one grabbed me for that French vibe feel and that other humanly thing. Otherwise, there was a lot of hate coming from that one in particular, and long strike crossbows doing their hatred turn 1 and turn 2 is not something that my little 5 wound characters are very excited by. So I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist unless it becomes a problem for me. Now, Andy, there's one last list that I would like to have a look at. And this is just one of our bonus shout-out lists. This isn't one that either you or I picked because it took us competitively or did anything. But I just felt, much like when we talked about the Khorne Dragon list earlier, I really wanted to field this list. It also has a bit of Free Guild in it. But ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you what I'm going to say arguably is probably my favorite army of the event. I have never seen anything like it before. It satisfies this bit inside of me that always wanted to see this in old Warhammer Fantasy. This list really, yeah, it makes me pretty excited. I really want to see it. God, I hope I get to play against it because I think it's just fun. And it's called Wizards of the Coast. It's by a bloke named Ryan. I haven't met him. Already know he's a legend. He's playing Order from Gyran. And just look at that. On the leader's side, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 battle mages, which my guess would be you're going to see 1 mage from each, representing each of the laws of magic. And that, like leave the rest of the list, leave everything else alone. That is just absolutely awesome. And yeah, like this just really gets me. I'm loving there's endless spells in there because like shit, you've got 6 casters, so 6 wizards. The Hurricaneum and the Luminarch are doing friendly things with each others, and the archers. The mages are popping off spells. You have the mage on a griffin. It's the coolest model. That's the 2-headed griffin. For those of you who don't know, he basically rides on the back and summons celestial magical amber spears that he fucking throws at people. The griffin rips their shit up. This list, it excites me in a way that I cannot ever possibly explain. And so that's why I wanted to give a huge shout out to Ryan. I fucking love this list. Andy, when the lists were being submitted and you saw this, what kind of hit your brain? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I was like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, I looked at, because I love the Hurricaneum. I took it to LVO 2017, and I allied it into Sylvaneth. Allied it was part of a battalion where you could have an order. Order wizard in there. Yeah. So, I love what it can do because it actually, if you roll well, it can really put out a lot of mortal wounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the +1 to hit. So I'm not sure. Maybe the 40 block of guard is going to be buffed and is going to become shit hot. I don't know. I mean,
I'm also looking at it and I'm going that Luminarch of Hysh, which is the lensy one. I remember being on the receiving end of some shooting from that once, and that just fucked up like a character return. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's if nothing else, it excites me, and I really hope that Ryan's plan is basically to go down the line every game and have one battle mage representing each of the different winds of magic and the different mortal realms, because yeah, it's just great. I always wished I'd seen it in Warhammer Fantasy. In old Warhammer Fantasy, someone taking all the different mages and just freaking representing the different realms, spells, and the realms, and great. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. It's I mean, it's very heavy on the magic, but it's fun. I don't necessarily know if this list is going to do well. I don't know if it's particularly competitive. It could catch some people by surprise, and armies that have like one question and don't have a really strong toolbox. I feel like it could like basically cripple them turn one and get a few wins. I think it might be I reckon this army might go 2 wins, 3 losses, maybe 3-2. But as far as loving the shit out of this army, when just going through the lists that are coming to West Coast GT, this was the list that when I read it, I was like, I fucking love this list. That was the one that just made me giggle, made me smile. So Ryan, wherever you are, whoever you are, I can't wait to meet you, because you're a legend, and that list is just great. So yeah, look, that's it for all the lists that we were covering. If you've missed it, this will be up on Twitch like immediately as soon as we end this, so you can watch it back. See, we started with chaos, no, death. We started with death, then did chaos, then destruction, then order, or a different order than that I've just fucked up. And we spoke earlier in the show with LLV, our stats man, who's done all the stats and made some predictions for how we think it's going to go. I personally reckon Dispossessed is going to win. But Andy, before we wrap it up, any last words from you, last thoughts, feelings, cares, concerns, complaints, queries? How you going?
I mean, you know, if I was a dog, my tail would be wagging.
Yep.
You know, I'd probably be, quite frankly, sniffing a crotch, I guess. But no, you know, this event felt like it was a long way off. January, when things started to happen, and now it's like a week away, and you know, I can't wait to see so many of these armies on the table and just
yeah,
happens. And I think it's just going to be fascinating. And I'm, you know, I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and we've got a social event on the Saturday night.
Yes. Sorry, yeah, please tell everyone about that, because that I mean, I'm just excited for that because there's drinking involved personally, but I know that other people are excited. Like, the social aspect's great. Don't get me wrong, love socializing. Really excited about alcohol too. That also it makes me very, very happy in a special place. So yeah, sorry, tell us about the Saturday night. What's the go?
So Veronica has booked for us a place called Kaylee's. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's nearby, and so it's 8 o'clock, and we've got 20 reserved. But if we get more, then we can maybe adjust that or less. But you know, I think there'll be potentially a big piss up happening. I obviously will need to, you know, cut back rationed drinks probably, and because I probably will need to still focus on Sunday morning.
Oh no, definitely. I 100% expect that you will not be made to get incredibly drunk by everybody else. I feel like it's kind of a move that players feel like doing, is getting the TO really drunk. So I think you'll have the deck stacked against you on that one. But also because you're a lovely bloke, and I feel like people just want to buy you drinks because you're a lovely bloke. But you know, you don't have to comment on that, because you know, to be very self-aggrandizing for you to say that you think you're a fucking legend. But yeah, thank you so much, Andy. It's been awesome having you on again. And yeah, I guess the next thing that we'll be having a chat about is the fallout of all of this time next week when we have the results. And just to remind, I've got to give you one last chance, Andy. Your top 3 picks were first place one of the Skaven armies, second place one of the Nighthorn armies, and third place one of the Iron Jaws armies. Is that still the case? Is that still your call?
I by that,
yeah?
And you know, I feel like if I get it correct, then you know, it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. I'd kind of be interested if you call that one. I mean, I think it's brave not having Flesh Eater Courts anywhere in your top 3. I personally think that Dispossessed are going to go 1, 2, and 3. That way, I know I am at least going to get 33% right when I inevitably podium with the Dispossessed, because they are the superior army in the game right now, as the Nightbot command exclamation mark Dispossessed shows us. But yeah, thank you so much, Andy. Just like last time, as always, you're a fucking legend. You're a lovely bloke, and as Night Scribe, as Rob points out, you're a legend of the local AOS community. And oh yeah, you better be careful, because it seems like there are plans in motion to get everyone to buy you a shot. So maybe purchase a second liver just so that you can get that installed to start bringing up. But Andy, thank you very much for being on. It's been a pleasure having you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah. Cheers, mate. So yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. So for those of you who are here, that's the end of the show. We're gonna wrap it up there. Because that's not much more to say. I don't want to flog a dead horse. I'd much rather come back next week when we can talk about how well Dispossessed did. I really hope that I'm not eating my own words this time. But to those of you in the chat, thank you, you beautiful people. There've been a few people. I'm so sorry. It was a big show, but I missed. There's a few people. Dimensional Cascade signed up with Twitch Prime. There are a couple before. I'm so sorry if I missed you. Oh, Dimensional Cascade, I fucking love your name. If you're still there, if you're still in the chat somewhere, just a legendary fucking name. Obviously an old Warhammer thing, but whenever you cast magic, for those who don't know, if you rolled a double 6 on any of your casting dice, and you could roll up to 6, you suffered a miscast, and you had to roll to see what it was. The worst of those was Dimensional Cascade, that at best deleted probably the unit that was surrounding your wizard, and at worst killed the entire unit and the wizard as well. So just credit for that. I love the name. Welcome. Lovely to have you with us through Twitch Prime there. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody who's been with us. Back same time, 7:30 Vancouver time, which I think is Pacific Standard. Not sure what it is. So yeah, it's wonderful to have you. Oh, you've got a Twitch channel. Fuck yeah, all right. I'm going to check your shit out. That's great. As long as it's like talking about how great dwarves are and how terrible magic is, I'm with you. But yeah, it's great having you all, whether you're subscribers, Patreons, stalking us, tweeting us, twatting us, doing whatever you want with us. It's really good to have you on, because literally whenever we get new tech, or whenever we go and do an event, or whenever anything happens with the Honest Wargamer, it is through that. It's not funding through any companies or anything. So you guys are great. We love you. Thank you for being here. And I guess I'll see you next week, hopefully with a slightly more full bottle, because this thing ran out recently. And by recently, I mean like probably about 45 minutes ago, and I've been bone dry ever since. So that's an issue that will need to be resolved. But yeah, thank you so much. You can find me just if you look down below, just down along there. That's got the Twitter handle that you can use to find me. If you have any questions or just want to throw shit at me or yell at me about Fosters, go ahead and do that. But thank you very much. You're wonderful human beings. I can't wait to see you all next time. And yeah, this time next week, I assume that we'll be chatting about the result. As we can see off to my left here, we have the data. So we can see going down, we've like the Skaven, blah, blah, blah. Predictions, like the odds looking like Flesh Eater Courts have probably got it. If we look right down the bottom there, that's Dispossessed. That's the actual army that is going to win this event. So I'm real excited about that. But yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. See you later, and I'll catch you next week.